Yay, we're live. Hello, it's Thursday, I think, and you're live on YouTube. Uh, I'm not seeing anything on YouTube, so I'm a little bit worried. What is going on?
Ooh, all right.
It says excellent connection, and I'm just seeing a black screen. If someone could confirm, yay or nay,
I'm going to it right now.
why would it pick today to break? Like,
You're not.
I,
Looks like I see
it,
it.
look, it looks live to me, Alan. I went to YouTube and it looks like it's streaming.
I do see us live as well.
sweet. Sorry about that small hiccup. Let's start again. Let's pretend that didn't happen. Hello, I'm Alan, and welcome to Anchore's gardening session. We do this every Thursday where we just do some work and you watch. I'm Alan, and there's Chris, and there's Keith, and Dan, and Will. Alex is away at DevOps Days North America. Where is that? Is that in New York or Washington? Somewhere over there.
I think Washington.
I'm not. I'm doing terrible operational security, giving away his location. But I mean, there are people in the room who can see where he is. So yeah, I'm not. I'm not doing too bad. Do we have any topics that we need to discuss at all? I mean, Chris, you might have one.
Yeah. So yesterday, the day before, and today have been a lot of motion on the Anchore tool grant for license compliance. We came out with a new v0.3.0 and then quickly came out with the 0.3.1 and then quickly came out with the 0.3.2. So the iterations have been quick in both finding bugs and getting new features out. We had a webinar today. The long and short of the changes are we updated the config, checked the documentation for the new config, how we basically minified license rules from 4 or 5 lines to 1. We updated the flow of how to use Grant. So yeah, you could just do Grant config and it will do you can pipe that to a config file and it'll work as expected to get kind of out of the box usage for it. But there's a new workflow where you can basically go list all the licenses for a directory or for a container, like for a software project, then select the licenses that you want to inspect, all of the packages for it, and then if one of those packages kind of has a risk score associated with it that's giving you little heebie-jeebies, like it's strong copy left or something you want to look, you can pass a package filter and go and see all the licenses for that package. So it's like 1, 2, 3, step down all the way. They have links in the output now, so you can click the links that take you to the SPDX license and then all the corresponding documentation to it. And then if you go to the Grant repo, actually on GitHub, you can see the most recent PR where dogfooding Grant against itself. So you can see a whole GitHub Actions workflow of how you can pipe it into your own CLI, into your own program, and start checking licenses for the different ecosystems that Syft can cover. So yeah, it should be under, workflows and validations, if you go there. And then under validations, you'll see that we do make PR validations. And so the next file you want to go to from there is the task file, because all of our make commands are run through the task file for all of our repos for Syft, Grype, Grant. So that's at the top level. If you go to Grant, the Grant root directory, and then task file is capital T. And then under there, you'll see, exactly. So static analysis is under PR validations, and under static analysis, if you go down, you see there's license validations. And if you Command F for license validations, it's a nice little Russian nesting doll of commands all together. And you find that next. This is the command that we run. And we do this because we know we're shipping Grant. It's only a Go program. So we only want to check the Go module file cataloger output for Syft. We sift all of those modules. We get it for the directory scan. We pipe that to Grant, and we check that against our Grant config. And if you look at the Grant config, it's actually going to be a lot similar to what we have in Syft as our current bouncer config. The benefit of Grant is that we cover all of the ecosystems that Syft covers. So if you have like a multimodal project or a multi-ecosystem project, you can do all those licenses, whereas Bouncer is specifically for Go projects. So if eventually you want to start checking licenses on GitHub Actions, we're going to start looking at how to get licenses for GitHub Actions in Syft. And then if you have like a Node or a JavaScript project combined with like a Go backend and it's all in one mono repo, we also can do checking for all those modules and all those packages at the same time. So really shines in like a multi-ecosystem repository where we have good license coverage on the Syft side.
This is lovely. I love this. Much better output, and these are all clickable. This is wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, command click any one of those red ones, and it'll take you to the SPDX link for that guy. Yep, and then you can. The best resource from this is this gives like what their best shot of text is, but those other web page links usually takes you to like the opensource.org or the actual authors of the license and what they say about it. And we have another announcement is the risk score is statically compiled into Grant right now. We're going to move that to a database in the future, but it's very easy. If you go to the generate code where we generate the SPDX list, it's under like internal Grant generate or flip those Grant internal, one of those two. You can find where we're generating the SPDX list and associating these scores. And if we're making a mistake or if there's something that you disagree with, let us know in the issues. We'll update it. And we also are going to strive for 0.4.0 to allow people to overwrite the risk score default out of the box with ones that they associate that their legal department gives them and stuff like that.
Nice. Sweet.
Yeah.
We also just did a webinar, and that is currently being edited and uploaded to the internet, and it'll be on this very YouTube channel. So if you subscribe to youtube.com/Anchore, you'll be able to see the webinar in the clear, no sign up required, that myself and Chris did about 2 hours ago. And it's got all of this detail, and there's a nice bunch of slides in there and some little animated GIFs in the slides as well. It looks really, really cool. So yeah, good work on that, Chris, on that. And there's one little thing we haven't mentioned. If we scroll down.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a small thing. You've got a mascot now.
Yeah, the graveyard of Sora and other tool images are long and populated to get to this result. But this feels like we've turned a page, because before getting your own mascot for this, also with the conditions of having to be in the family of Syft and Grype, you're very picky on who their friends can be, right? That was super fun to like learn how to do and like use the tooling now that exists to generate things like this new image, because we collaborated then with an artist to make it really spot on. But we could go a lot farther with generating kind of the idea of what is the closest thing we can get to the Syft and Grype mascots without either copying them, like having a copy paste monster, but also having one that looks like he's in the same themes. So that was cool.
Super. Thank you very much. Anyone else got anything they want to mention at all before we dive into what's going on? Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to find window. Sorry, I just saw a blank window in YouTube. If someone could just temporarily check that that's still live, and error occurred, is what's going on there. Anyone else got anything else we need to talk about?
YouTube still looks good to me.
Oh cool. Yeah, we're up.
Sweet. Should we just dive into the usual?
Let's do it.
Okay. What is our usual? There's a bit of triage and...
Oh, yeah, man. I haven't looked at the triage this week. I'm way behind the ball.
I should create a separate one that doesn't show all these false positives. We've only got a few down here. Should we give this one a go? This one is Syft 4226. I'll paste it in the old Chattanooga if I can find it. Crikey, that's the wrong button. So Syft 4226. I'll pop it in the chat. Syft fails to pull images through tunnels or proxies, reverts to original registry hosting instead of effective URL. What?
Yeah, so I looked at this one before, and there's a corresponding stereoscope issue that's linked in here, which is, I mean, it's effectively the same thing. The issue is that they have a proxy. They connect through the proxy to the Docker registry using the registry source, not Docker daemon, but registry source. And when they get a redirect back, Stereoscope tries to go to the original, like doesn't go back through the proxy, And so then, of course, it doesn't work.
Oh, I see. There's no like remangling of the URLs to send it back out through the proxy to the address it's been given by Docker, right?
Exactly that. So, I mean, it seems to me like something that we, would certainly be happy to support.
Okay, so it's stereoscope 458 is the other issue. This is one of those like tricky things, and I always used to discuss this with people at Canonical when I was there. Like a lot of developers, we just don't sit behind proxies very often anymore. Like, yeah, the work from home and the bring your own laptop, era, and working in, fairly liberal corporate environments where they don't have like spying on you via proxies and stuff makes this kind of stuff like, new, and we don't see it very often. So yeah, it's good that other people are seeing it and reporting the issue, because like we would just not know about this, would we? Because we don't sit behind these proxies. So is the answer,
Right.
patches welcome?
The
Go ahead, Chris.
I used to work behind a proxy when I worked at Capital One, and we had we had a pretty famous haiku there. It was like, it's not the proxy, it can't be the proxy, it was the proxy. And I think like basically when it comes to solving these specific issues, Keith, were the reproducible steps like really good? Did you try and reproduce this, or is there a way we can, or are we just a slave to like trying something new, sending it over and being like, does this work for your environment? Like that was like the first step of trying to figure out at my old job, like how to get around any kind of custom proxy issues.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at it now. I hadn't looked at it in too great detail before, but that was the summary that I gave. But no, I haven't been able to reproduce it. But I mean, I think we'd be able to set up a proxy. But one thing I noticed here is that I mean, it looks like they are directly pulling from the proxy, and I wonder if this is something that like they should be using like a SOX proxy instead of like actually using a different URL, right? Because Go supports actual like proxies using some environment variables. So I wonder if that's something that would actually help to solve their problem here. They don't really. It's highly dependent on their setup.
So what you're suggesting is, rather than Go has the smarts to use a proxy like you would use a proxy, not just using it as a replacement name that happens to go, because there's no way the client can know that, right? Know that they're talking to a host and actually that's a completely different host. That's not very transparent, right?
Right. Well, I think the sort of what they're saying in this issue is that like the proxy client is like sending a 302, like, hey, talk to this host name instead. And then Stereoscope forgets on subsequent calls that that's been sent. And so I think that I don't know. I haven't checked their spec reference, but it seems like a bug we should fix. I think what it would be really wonderful if there was an easy way to test it, right? Because I can go make a bunch of changes to Stereoscope and confirm that they don't break how I use Stereoscope, and then release it or ask these people to do a test build or whatever, and it will not necessarily work the way we expect it to. So I think,
yeah, I think there's either we need to sign up for whatever service they're using, if we want to like one for one simulate this. But if it's possible to simulate this using like any other proxy, like that would be helpful.
Yeah, it's like
yeah. Well, and I think maybe we could just proxy the Docker, the registry, right? You can just pull a Docker container that is called registry, that is a spec compliant OCI registry in an image, and just run it on localhost. Maybe we could proxy that locally or something and see if we can still reach it. That might not be a very realistic scenario, but it might be enough to test this. I don't know.
I think all we really need to do is just to run a container that is a proxy and then set that up to, to point to Docker Hub, right? And then, but then
Right.
connect to our local thing and then, yeah. So I think there's not too difficult with the test.
Yeah. And I think the hard thing with that is that if Stereoscope does the wrong thing and ignores the proxy container,
Yeah.
Stereoscope can reach Docker Hub, right? So you probably want to run it in a network none container and like mount just the proxy in or something. I don't know. It would take some thinking. I think
Yeah.
it would be, but it's perfectly possible that we're wrong here and not quite spec compliant. If anybody has a really nice way to test that, we'd love to hear about it. And I think a pull request would be great, but I think a way of testing it would be even better, because if someone sends a pull request, I think the test is going to be harder than the implementation. Like if somebody sends a pull request that they claim works for this, I still need a way to test it.
Yeah, I just read to the bottom of the Stereoscope issue. There's an example set up of like how you can. I haven't set up a JFrog repository in a while, so the jury's out on if that's if there's a free aspect of that or not. But then we have to use the zrock tunnel, and then where I would go from there is find other proxies like in lieu of the same zrock and just see if they all behave in the same way. And like, is it a spec compliant? Is it basically like, is it the proxy or is it Stereoscope behaving in an incorrect way? Like, are they doing something? Is the zrock implementation of the proxy not doing something that Stereoscope would expect that would then allow this to succeed? Which, again, without investigating, jury's out on both sides. Which is the issue.
All right. Well, I think for this one, yeah, everybody is what you all have said is good. I'll write up an answer on here. Also, just going to suggest the socks potential to use the socks proxy with the Go environment variables, and that may help them also.
Yeah, I agree. It's possible that even the HTTP proxy, HTTPS proxy environment variables could work in this environment, because that everything will go there regardless through the tunnel. It still raises the question, like, what's going on with the specific tunnel, but that might actually work. I agree.
Is it this service? Is it this thing?
Open source solution brought to you by NetFoundry. Looks close. Yep, that looks pretty private. Private proxy tunneling. Cool.
Okay.
I've never heard of that.
No, neither have I. I mean, there's a lot of these kind of tunneling services like ngrok, and you could do it in various ways. I think the point that Will raised is to do this in a test environment, you want a registry that's inaccessible on the internet and put a proxy in front of it somehow that is accessible on the internet, which isn't impossible. It's not beyond the wit of like your average smart engineer. It's just a bit of extra infra to have running in order to test that this thing works. And
well, I mean, one thing we can do from the testing standpoint is just run a Go HTTP test server, right? And if that thing does the proxying for us, then we can just log, something in the test to make sure that was the thing that was used for each step of the download or something along those lines, right? I mean, it would be more work than I start doing myself at the moment, but but we could do something like that.
Yeah. I think the main thing that's tricky is like sort of confirming the real end to end. I think like once we have an implementation that we know works end to end with this style of proxy, like automatically testing it can be handled as Keith mentioned, but it's like convincing myself that an implementation solves the problem in the absence of like this person's work laptop is a little bit of extra work, and that's okay. But yeah, I think we should do this. Like we should be a spec compliant OCI registry client. And we sort of thought we were. So if there's a gap there, we should definitely close it.
so what's this? Needs investigation? Someone?
I think, I mean, it sounds ready to me, you know,
Okay.
if
Yeah.
somebody has
Yeah.
a,
Ready is fine.
Sweet.
I'm writing up an answer or a comment now.
Awesome. Thanks, Keith. What's next? Oh, one of them disappeared. I don't know where that went. Oh, was that? Oh, that's
That
the
was-
one. That was the. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're the two related issues.
Is this a new one? Or did we talk about this already?
We talked about this one previously. What's up, Will?
I was just wondering, it seems like we're jumping straight to triage and we have some needs discussion issues.
Oopsie. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I just like I was it's good to get through the triage ones too. But
Yeah,
I think
I forgot because we ploughed through all the needs. I forgot that we had any. So,
Yeah.
has anyone got any? Oh gosh, there's loads.
I think some of these haven't been like pruned, like we've discussed them, but the first two, I'd be happy to talk about either of the first two.
Okay, so the first one is Grype 2852. Let me just paste it in the old Chattanooga. So do you already have backstory on this one?
Yeah, so what's happening here is that the user is passing the only fixed flag to Grype, and what that does is it causes Grype to only show vulnerabilities for which there is a fix available. And so the thinking there is you can say, you know, Grype dash dash only fix, meaning there won't be vulnerabilities that there's no patch for in the output. So if you're looking to remediate things, this is very helpful because it suppresses all the vulnerabilities that there's no patch for. And their complaint is that we are claiming that there's a Python CVE that is fixed in a pre-release version of Python that is 2 Python versions later. And their contention is that doesn't mean it's fixed. It should not show up in only fixed. I wish I didn't see this. And I think they sort of have a point. And so we previously, and if you look at the last line of the output there, it'll be a little bit different today, but and of course it's a huge image, but if you look at the last line of the little code block, right, it's fixed in 3.14.0 B3, which I think is like a beta or a pre-release of Python interpreter. And so what they were wondering is whether they could say, like, please don't tell me to upgrade my interpreter unless there's a patch on like the same interpreter version I'm using, right? Like this is a Python 3.12 code base. We're not upgrading to Python 3.14 release candidate over the CVE. Please don't show that to me. And so I think, I don't know what. Oh, and it's an inefficient regular expression complexity, which is I might just, depending on my use case, ignore that. But
Not security advice, Will.
yeah, no, that is not
I am not
security
a lawyer.
advice. That is just like the real solution here is don't use regular expressions.
He is a security expert. He's not a lawyer, but he is not telling you to just ignore things like that.
Right. I just mean that yeah, anyway, so that's an example of there's a bunch of other things in here, but you see how we have the line that was just, if you see the Python package itself, right, we have 3.2.11, and then there's a fix in 3.13 and a fix in 3.14 release candidate, but there's no 3.12 fix. And so I think there's an interesting configuration opportunity where we assume that the user is willing to upgrade any package, but is unwilling to upgrade the distro, right? We say that, like, you know, okay, this is an Ubuntu jammy image, so we only care about, like, if it's not fixed, if there's not a fix for Ubuntu jammy, but then we're like, well, you could just port the app to Java 19 and the CVE would go away. And so it's kind of interesting that we've like decided that distros are are not upgrading and uh, language SDKs are upgradable, and it might be worth having a configuration knob on that.
Interesting. What does it say? What distro it is? Is it actually Ubuntu or is it?
Sorry, there's nothing to do with Ubuntu in this particular scan. I just meant generally, like only fixed will confine itself to fixes available for the distro you're on, but will not confine itself to fixes available for the language version you're on. And that's an interesting decision that we sort of didn't mean to make.
Right.
When you say language, you mean like major version, minor version? Sorry, I was typing and missed a little bit of what you said. I apologize.
So what this person is saying is basically like only fixed should have filtered out this row because there's no Python 3.12 fix for it. Or I should have the option to tell only fixed that I don't want to upgrade my language interpreter. And I thought that was an interesting request. And there's some configuration complexity. There's some comments further down we could look at, but I think it's an interesting request.
Yeah, I thought that the discussion, I just was looking through the ticket, the discussion kind of moved into that zone that you're talking about, Will, which is like, this is a little bit of I think it's likely has to be a little bit of a subjective decision, i.e. configurable, because not all packages work this way, where there's like, the distribution solved this problem by inventing things like modules, where you can there's a supported track of Python 3.12, there's a supported track of Python 3.13, there's a supported track, and they can all live, you can choose, I want to be on the 3.12 track or the 3.13 track or the 3.14 track, and they each get their own fixes and they have their own life cycles. But this is not, Alan, what you were showing earlier was you're looking at the Debian version. In this case, it's in the Python container where they build it from source. So it's just like, it's not a Debian package. It's the straight up Python from source 3.12. But outside of the distros, I don't know anywhere in the open source world where that information about this is a supported track is sort of generally communicated. So in that case, I think the way that this discussion has gone, which is like, we need to think about how to configure this so that you can decide whether or not you want to see fixes, because the thing you're interested in is one of these track types or it's not. I think that's the right way for the discussion to go.
Right. I love the suggestion that -- do not suggest minor version bump equals Python. Right. Just like don't tell me to upgrade Python. I know I should. I can't right now. I don't know that we'll end up with that exact user experience, but I think that there's sort of a twin knobs that we're missing, which is like, don't tell me to upgrade like the JDK. Don't tell me to upgrade Python. But then there is like, I'm okay upgrading the distro, right? That's why distros came up in the discussion, is because we've also wondered if Grype could have a good way of saying like, there is no fix for that package on your current distro, but there is on the next. And those seem like related configuration knobs to me, like locking down the Python version or the JDK version, or expanding the distro version seem like related configs to me. And there's some other comments that might be interesting, but what do other people think now that I've rambled for a while and kind of explained it?
I wonder, like, if the space is small enough. Like we just mentioned, Python version, JDK, maybe like the Go version itself. Like, but if the list of enumerables of what we're trying to like limit is small enough, maybe it's a table in the database where it's like, these are the things that we know are like developers run into that they don't want to upgrade, right? And so you can select any number from that table and say, and like have that be the thing that you either turn off or on as far as your like let's say you're a Python developer totally, right? So you can have a select from this table that just says, okay, I'm not going to care about Python at all forever. But then like as you move into like mixed ecosystems and you're scanning a bunch of stuff, you want to select like two or three and have those turned off at a time. You don't want to have to like tweak individual. I shouldn't be like an enum where it's only Python turned off or only Java turned off. Like you should be able to like max out that list and have all of these things that you know are very sticky that you just don't want to do matching upgrades for and like have that be a config. And the only reason I proffer it as a table instead of a like something in memory is because maybe there's like a way too that we could link them to their specific vulnerabilities. So anytime we get a vulnerability then that's core the Python language or core one of these things, we have that link to the vulnerability in the database so that we know we can surface later that, hey, do you want to turn this off? Because here's like a field that says if you select this field, you can use this other data element to then turn and mask and kind of default knock off this vulnerability. So that's kind of where my brain goes for that.
And that makes sense. I think I'm always hesitant to make it a lot easier for users to hide vulnerabilities from themselves. Like imagine that this wasn't Python 3.12, it was Python 3.7,
Yeah.
right? And there's not one CVE about regular expression, inefficient backtracking, there's 100, and they're about SSL validation and memory corruption and stuff. I think I think what the I feel like the request behind the request here is like a better only fixed, right? Like if I pass dash dash only fixed, I want Grype to tell me things I can fix. And it gave me like one of the rows in the output is something I can't reasonably do anything about. And so I wish I could configure that more. Or I wish there was a better process for Grype to tell me what upgrades I might make. Does that make sense? Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, it does to me, but the one thing that is a little bit confusing to me is that, I mean, what we're talking about is a minor version, and we're talking about something that looks like it's semver. And like to me, in generally speaking, if I see something that's you know, a minor version upgrade that's using semver in a reasonably semver compliant way, like that upgrade shouldn't be something that would break anything in theory.
Yeah, but this is Python and all bets are off.
I think that's
that's the general problem, which is why I think it's the configuration, like how to express this is the right kind of path to go. I thought it was interesting. You do have on the screen right now, you know, Weston pointed out that Dependabot has a way to sort of express this through configuration. So through remediation strategy for specific things. I don't really see a way around having to say, in my case, I want to only see fixes that are within the minor for this named package. You can't do, I think it's pretty clear you can't do that generally. So,
right.
But to Chris's point, maybe for like, there's this emerging pattern, I feel like, which is there are special cases for the language runtimes. Like that is a set of things that kind of has a somewhat common set of behaviors. So it might be worth investigating if it could start there and then allow people to add or remove kind of how.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have enough horizontal experience across all the ecosystems to know like example, I know Python, it's always a bear depending on how the dice got rolled and what the minor upgrade is, right? For Node, sometimes it's like super easy to do. Go, it's seamless. Like Go has the least amount of friction. I don't even think about upgrading. Like I just do it. And if it breaks, then I go, oh, let me read the patch notes. How did this break? So there's a whole wide range of like ecosystem, there be dragons here where it's so, you'd say it's so acute, for example, in the Python space that they need this config. But for something like the other side, I think the Go side, no one would ever use this on the Go side because again, they don't care. They're pulling in new versions of Go as quickly as possible in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Well, and you don't have to ship an interpreter with your app if you're building Go.
1000%.
But I think, I think that's a really good point, Dan, that like the language runtime is a different thing. Like we had a lot of feedback um, for the same thing with the JDK, right? Where there was a major CVE against the Java runtime. Sorry, not the JDK, I guess the JVM, and there was a CVE that was backported to like every JVM major version ever, right? So this is fixed in Java, 8.2.9 million, and in Java like 11.2.4 million. And we were showing all those fixed versions in Grype, and it was really confusing because people were like, well, this is a Java 17 app. I'm not going to make it a Java 8 app over this one CVE. Don't suggest this. This is silly. And so I think this here now it comes with a Python interpreter. So I think we do have some signal that like the interpreter itself is a special kind of package, right? Where you're not asking somebody to like upgrade the CSV parser library to one that handles new lines better. You're asking somebody to rewrite their application in a slightly changed language syntax. That's a really different ask. So yeah, maybe what we're looking for is a like dash dash, I don't know, no interpreter update or something. That doesn't seem like a very good flag. I kind of like the original requesters.
Yeah, and I also
Yeah,
like. I'm thinking more about your suggestion, Will. Like, I don't want to give people the foot guns, right? Because in a lot of cases, it's important to try and figure out and grind through the interpreter upgrade.
absolutely. Like if you go all the way back to the top of this particular issue, right? The reason why that I think this is a problem here is because they're using the Python container image tagging stuff, which is like there's a 312 inside of the Python 312 container image. You're never going to get a Python 313. That's a really weird. So if they're pinned to, Docker.io /Python :312, then the upgrade for them would be to change it to not use that container image, use a different one.
Right, which would be
So it's
so then
partly about the publication strategy as well. So I feel like that the ability to specify a remediation strategy for named packages, maybe starting with a set, to Chris's earlier point, that it uses that language ecosystems that generally have this. So we're going to have a set of those as kind of a starter,
Right.
but then be able to
yeah. And I think that
feels like a good approach to me.
yeah, and I think that one of the important things is like that we're changing the behavior of only fixed, right? So what we're basically saying is if a fix requires me to cross a language version, I consider it unavailable. And I don't want to be told that it's a path I can take. That's what the user wants to write down. And I think that makes sense. I think Grype right now basically assumes that people never want to be told to upgrade their distro and will always happily be told to upgrade anything else, which is maybe not completely true in all cases. Yeah, so I think that Weston's comment might be the path forward, where we have something in the config file that's a little bit like the dependabot, like constrain fix availability. Is that what we're leaning towards for an implementation?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the dependabot configuration, but I'm happy to, copy and paste. And if it works for them and it looks really good, right, then why reinvent the wheel? Why fix what's not broken and try that out? Try that on.
Yeah, I don't know
Well,
if
it's interesting too, because like structurally, if that matches well, then I feel like that's probably better in general, because then, not in this case, but in other cases, people would have to do the same thing with a dependabot against their project. So as not to get recommendations for remediation for exactly the same reasons. It might be nice for it structurally to line up if it's expressive enough.
Is there no? Is Python 3.12 no longer a supported release then?
no, in Python 3.12 is. I think they fixed this in newer, like since this was published, the fix has been backported to 3.13. I suspect a backport to 3.12 is in the works, but that they're starting with main and backporting. So like the latest, the 3.14 release candidate got the patch first, and then 3.13 minor version got the patch. Maybe later a 3.12 minor version will get the patch.
That's why the users comment where they say they like kind of ignore it or deal with it for weeks, because their time of dealing with it is the long tail of however long it takes them to work down the chain to get to their version of a backport.
Right.
Right.
And I think, yeah. And I also kind of want people to be at least thinking about like, I feel like there's like a secret request in here, which is a Grype, tell me what to fix. Like Grype, tell me which package to upgrade. And we told them a package that they don't think it's reasonable for them to upgrade right now. And so they wish we didn't do that. Yeah, I think adding something like a config to say like only fixed shouldn't suggest changing language versions. Even that as a, I don't want to add a million Boolean configs, but even that one doesn't seem that bad. Chris has a hand up.
No, I liked the way you framed it of where it's like the hidden request of Grype, tell me what to fix. Because, Will, you've mentioned it before. Like, there is some amount of work that can be done on Grype where you basically go, okay, what is the package that if I tweaked this, I would get rid of the most things? Like, I would just literally go from the worst output I've ever seen as a security engineer to, oh my God, this is so manageable now, right? Like if you just want to find the Lego block that if you pull it out, the whole tower of security vulnerabilities falls down. So it's like, because in this case, it's exactly flagging the thing that is. It's like, hey, if you had a magic bullet and you could upgrade to a backported fix right now, all of those things would go away. And so it's like that exists, and then you have the ability to tell it, no, I don't care about that suggestion. Next suggestion, please. Next thing below that. Like you can kind of iterate through and say, not this anymore. I want to go to the next thing because you've beaten me over the head with 3.12. The backport's not there. We can't upgrade. I'm done. I'm done caring about this very significant thing that could make my results go away. My results minified.
Yeah, I, yeah, that makes sense. He had a suggestion in the chat too, which is -- safe upgrades, which would be like a stricter version of only fixed. I think Keith, where correct me if I'm wrong, but it'd be like a version of only fixed that is more. It only suggests fixes that it thinks will be very easy to take. Maybe like Semver patch versions or something, or very safe to take.
Right,
That
exactly.
was another idea.
Yeah, so certainly not like major version upgrades, right? Like that would be one that is likely to break something. And like in this case, I think, going back to what Chris said, I think we would definitely want to have something in the database or something in configuration somehow that does identify the language type things so we can kind of treat them nicer. But yeah, it might just, it feels to me like it's similar to only fixed, but maybe it's different enough that it's just a new function.
It is. I do find it interesting that, it's fixed in Ubuntu. It's not fixed in Debian. So no one's gone around to doing it in Debian. I don't know what other distros there are, but, and we've talked like internally about presenting other options like, the chain guards of this world or other companies that provide patches. And like, would it be utterly inappropriate to say to this person, change your base image? If you change your base image, yeah, okay, the rest of the world around you might change and shift a little bit. But like this container is full of Debs anyway. You're probably on Debian, I would imagine. And if you went to Ubuntu, you'd get this fixed. Which is the other end of the scale. It's not the super atomic. It's not only changing Python from 3.12 to 3.13. It's saying replace the base image, and you'll get a fixed Python. You'll get a whole load of other stuff probably, but that is another that's like -- unsafe or -- nuclear option kind of thing. Or is it? It's not, is it? Because the nuclear option is 313, 314, like, and beyond, or, switching
Well, no,
distro or building it yourself from source, is it?
it's somewhere in the spectrum. Although, I think it's viable as a solution, but my read on this one is it's registered as an enhancement, right? I don't think this person is blocked on this not being the case, because what we're talking about is essentially filtering information in the fixed in column, right? It's not about, I don't want it to be matched or da 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 da. It's basically, I just don't want to see it in front of my eyes and like have some way to basically, in a certain scenario, I don't want to see it in the column as a fix. So it didn't read to me like I can't use this tool without it. It read to me like, hey, this is an interesting enhancement. But you're totally right, Alan. There is a escape hatch. If you're really pinned to Python 3.12, then there are other Python 3.12 container images that actually have the fix. Like you said, you found one in Ubuntu. So it's worth putting in there just in case he needs to not have the security vulnerability, right? Because no matter what we do, in this case, it sounds like even if this enhancement were implemented, this users will still have a vulnerable Python 3.12 installed. It just won't show it will show no fixes, right?
Right.
Yes, make the warning go away, Daddy. Make the bad man go away.
But it's not. That's not. And dash only fixed is not tell me everything that's wrong mode. It's tell me everything I can do something about mode.
Yeah, right.
Right. And I think that's the key distinction there. Is they're not saying you shouldn't have reported this vulnerability. They're saying you shouldn't have told me I can easily upgrade, because going from 3.12 to 3.14 Python interpreter is not an easy upgrade.
Yeah, it's entirely about that fixed in value. It's not about the match.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know that we've made a specific decision, but we have some cool ideas. We'd love to hear from the community about how you think only fixed should be implemented differently, or how it can be more opinionated about helping you get things patched that are available to be patched without being super noisy about things that aren't really available to be patched. Yeah, we have time for another one.
Yeah, sorry, I found myself deep inside Docker Hub looking at the Python images and seeing, what are they made of? And, it's Debian Trixie or something, I don't know. Oh gosh, that's i386. Yeah, it won't be that. I just found it interesting, like that there is the possibility that you could switch, but not if you're building from source. Sweet. We spent a long time on that. Golly, we've got 10 minutes. Right, what can we burn through? That one we had a conversation about last time. I think this was
the deinstalled ones.
I think we talked about this at a different meeting, but haven't talked about it at the public meeting.
So let's have a go here. It's Syft 3063, which is about if someone does apt remove a deb without specifying -- purge, then we still find something because there's config in etc, probably something like that.
Because the entry isn't removed from varlib depackage status.
That's it, yes.
Yeah, I agree. This is, well, on the surface, this seems like it's probably a bug.
Yeah, I think we probably don't want to report deinstalled but still kind of there packages as like first class artifacts in the SBOM. I think but do we want to report them at all? Maybe it's just a weird implementation detail of apt that maybe it's just a weird implementation detail of apt that that it's possible to remove something and not pass -- purge. Like it feels a little bit like apt remove as a flag that means actually remove. which is surprising
think-
to me as someone who hasn't used it a ton.
I think the rationale is there's something gone screwy with my binaries, but my config is okay. So apt remove the thing and apt install it, but I want to keep the config. So you destroy you don't destroy the config by removing the package.
I see. That makes sense. So maybe there's some place in the Syft JSON where these like config only or deinstalled down to only their config files artifacts could be reported. I mean, the files will be reported if you have metadata owned or metadata all today. But I think that like I think that I think that I guess do we want to try to have somewhere to hang the config files off of if given that the main package ought to be removed?
I mean, I think it doesn't seem like a package to me at that point. It's just config files. And
Craft is what it is.
just like you said, I mean, they'll show up if you get a full file list or whatever, and you care about it. But if the binaries are gone, I think we verified that.
So is this just
I think the aspect of this is I agree with the discussion in the issue that the default behavior should be to exclude deinstalled packages from the package list. That seems pretty clear as like the bug version of this. The ticket filers said my issue is resolved because they just didn't know about the purge, so they're fine. But that opens the discussion that we're having now, which is like there is information in the case. Like assume that the bug is addressed. Now we have information. Deinstalled Debian packages have some remnants remaining. Question is, do we want to carry that information through somehow, not as installed packages, but some other artifact type? Or kind of they fall into the known unknown category at that point because they're just files that are no longer associated with something that's
right. Well, and I think by default configuration, Syft reports files when they're owned by a package, right? The file metadata, I think that's the default right now. I can't remember. And so the files would go away from the SBOM too. So maybe it's enough to just say, if you want to know about orphaned config files in the SBOM, set the file metadata cataloger selection to all, and then you will get a digest and a path for every file in the image, and then you will know about these files. Maybe that's a clean enough implementation, and so we just drop the package, and if people turn on all files, then they can go investigate why there are config files still and learn about apt-get remove -- purge.
That's kind of what I think. I mean, it seems to me like if somebody's trying to hide something, they would just do the purge, and then we wouldn't see them anyway. And if they really care about like the history of things, especially if it's a container, then they can do an all layer scan, and they would get the history when the things were installed before they got removed. So I think there's like different ways to get most of the information that people would want, but definitely could be somebody who wants this very specific thing.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think this is just a straightforward bug, and we should just like skip deinstalled entries in varlib depackage status.
Yeah, we should add if the label's not on it. Let me check. Yeah, it's already bugged up. I think we can put this. It's also in ready. We just got to work on it.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
cool.
discussion
Let's
part
remove
of it,
needs.
discussion part of it would be then its own independent topic, right? Aside from that. Yeah.
Okay. Let's remove needs discussion so we don't do this again next week.
Oops. Boom. And is someone going to leave a one-liner on there to say we're?
I can do that. I put needs discussion on it. What? It is.
Thank you. We've got 5 minutes. Is there one that we could do in 5 minutes, do you reckon? Or not?
That's enough for 5 bugs.
Okay. Righto. Right, let's do this one. This is Syft issue 3070. I think we've talked about this before. Yes, we have. 3 days ago, you added needs discussion. Oh, golly. Nope, we're not doing that one. It's too long. Oh, golly, that looks interesting. Is this something? Is this another last week? Okay.
4195.
4195. This is fun. Sorry, I've lost my chat window. Why does Zoom do that? Static build using formerly xcargo build or build using should be parsed or retained as parsed depackage entry in what is this in a
Yeah, if you run apt show like for any package, basically, there is a field which is the static built using, and he has the formerly xcargo or built using field that we can parse, and we can pull out like the static linking of packages that go into one of these. But what's interesting about this is like, yes, I think we should use this field because usually the package manager wins. Like if we found to go binary, and we found it was owned by the same files as the Debian package manager, then the Debian was what would win. I'm not sure currently of the merge behavior of if we do the go binary analysis and we rip out, like, because we decode and go through the whole thing and rip out what libraries were used to build it, if we merge that information up into the Debian package, or if, and what would happen if that conflicts with this xcargo or x built by field?
I wouldn't be
Go ahead.
surprised if we deduplicate the same named package and leave, if it has metadata that have other packages, we leave those other ones potentially.
Maybe. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, Alan just had it on his screen.
I didn't see that field. What
No, go back to what you just did. And then right below homepage, xcargo built using. So this ripgrep hasn't moved over to using the new field, which is static built using. But this user says that that's going to be what eventually this turns into.
But this is Ubuntu. This is an Ubuntu package.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is great. And I mean, not all Rust binaries have this information either. So this may be the only way that we can get
Nice.
get the dependencies.
Yeah, I have to look across the different. Alan brings up a good point that there's like considerations for the different distributions and what the field naming is being used across them. But yeah, there's two things that we need to look at here. The conflicts, which Keith pointed out, probably the correct way that we're handling those right now. Second, what package is actually winning if we find both of them. Third, what ecosystems are we actually doing the package dependency parsing correctly for the binary objects, and do those match correctly with the xcargo built using or whatever the packager puts in this field? What do we do on conflicts? Do we surface at all? Because there's a lot, like there's currently no way, maybe we could do this in the unknowns field, but there's currently like not a way I know of like, if you come up with a conflict of doing like the binary analysis of something, but then the package manager says something different, capturing that conflict and then showing the truth in big quotes to the user of what was found.
Yep, I agree with all of those things.
Wonderful. Okay.
When I wrote this note, there was also something else I wanted to discuss. Let me make sure. Account for all instances of static built using, xcargo built using, and built using for all examples of all distros across the analysis. We covered the packages and what happens with like the Highlander scenario if we did binary analysis and we have the shared file. Is there anything else? Is there anything else weird about what's in this xcargo built using or built using field? Because like this is basically the bare minimum for what a package is. It's the name and the version. So it's like a promise, trust me, bro. Like this exists. Do we raise this as a Syft package, or do we just preserve it as the metadata field of the package itself? I think that was another thing I wanted to.
But this is just what's in the depackaged database, assuming that the depackaged database is there. This isn't embedded in the binary or anything, is it?
Right. Yeah.
Right. But I think for Go and the for Go and Rust binaries, they're saying like this package is in there. Like the base 64 crate is statically linked into the binary in the repgrep D
Of
package.
course. Right.
And
Yes. I
so
didn't think about that. Yeah.
it kind of is there. And so I think they're like, especially with Go, we'll try to like the Go binary has metadata about this too. So we're going to find the package twice. We're going to find it once from the D package manifest, once from the Go module info as we parse that. And so I think that's where Chris's question about like which one wins if they disagree, what type of package is it?
And what's super weird about that, to pull on Will's thread, is that I think the binary analysis from the Go module should win for all of the packages that are dependencies that it finds, because it has more complete information about what the capital P Syft package should be in the final SBOM. So it's more useful for vulnerability scanning down the line of like consuming the SBOM. But if there's a package that's found in built using that isn't found during that binary analysis or module analysis, speaking only in the Go sense, haven't covered Rust, then if it exists in the built using field for the package manager, we didn't discover it, then I think my Spidey sense says it should be lifted up as its own package so that you can get like a complete answer on vulnscan. I just don't know what the Perl. I guess you have package name and version, so you can figure out the Perl for it. I don't know. I have to look at package creation from that metadata and see like if it even meets the standard of a Syft package. Because that's where it becomes useful. If you can elevate it when you didn't find it during the binary scanning, and then it's curried down the line for vulnerability checking. Alan said bong.
I said
It is
bong
Sorry.
because it is
Sorry.
time, gentlemen, please, as we like to say over here. Thank you, chaps. That was a lot of interesting stuff that covered a lot of ground. So if you like that, there's more of these on the Anchor YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Anchor, and you'll find all the stuff we talk about on GitHub, github.com/Anchor. We'll see you next week for more shenanigans with Anchor's open source team. See you all later. Have a good weekend. See you next week.
Thanks,
Ta-ta.
all. Bye.